Hey friends, welcome to the channel. I'm Tirso. A lot of my videos stem from the mentoring sessions, which a few of you said the same thing to me, which I found really funny. Tirso, I don't know how to see. I didn't really know how to respond in the moment because if you can't see, this career is kind of out of the question for you. Joking. The first step would be to put on some glasses. Also joking, but if you can't see balance, that's kind of tough. If you can't see unity, that's even tougher. And if you don't see color, don't be that person. Anyway, I wanted to try something different, so let's just see how well you can see. Are these segments equal? Yes, they are. Is this a horizontal third of the screen? It's not, it's just slightly more. The next one is a line centered. Yes, it is. What about this one? Just a little off to the right. Is the dot centered? Kind of a trick question. This one is just above what I'm now going to call the geometric center. In design, the dot would be in what is called the visual or optical center, which is the one you want to train your eye to see. It sits just above the actual center. Some context on this. Let's say you're trying to hang up a photo on a wall. Here is a wall. We need a photo. I'll just use an old silly photo of myself to distract you from the exercise. If you were to hang this in the geometric center, it would be here. However, the visual center would be slightly higher. Let's look at another example. This triangle is geometrically centered above and below. The base has more visual weight than the top, so you have to compensate for that. Using the visual center will make it feel more balanced. Gentle reminder that this is why you can't solely rely on technology for design. On that note, a great segue for kerning. We have some letters. By now, you should know that my channel will always be design, food, and tennis. Have a look at the letters and take note of what you would fix in terms of kerning, if any. When it comes to kerning, this is all visual and your ability to see balance between shapes because letters are shapes. I would say that the first two spaces are pretty balanced in weight. The W breaks in closer to the I to compensate some of the space. The space between the M and the B, however, should be exactly equal. The stems of the M are symmetrical and it's surrounded by two vertical stems, so we move that over. We just continue this way throughout the rest of the letters. We have to compensate for the roundness of the B, so the L should come closer. The E feels a little too close to the L, so we can push that out. Same with the D. Now we have two round shapes, so we have to go tighter. And then last, the N, which would also be tighter to compensate for the O. Now, I ask you again, is a word visually centered? It is. It's cheated slightly to the left to compensate for the W. Here is where we were, and here it is after kerning. Seeing isn't limited to what I would consider technical things. I think it's important for you to understand how you see versus how other designers see. In this case, me. We don't need to agree, and we probably shouldn't, because your approach to design is different from my approach, as is yours to another designer. Here is a layout. What improvements would you make? You can pause the video if you need. You probably already knew my answer if you saw my video on balance, but my take is that the photo is too heavy. I also don't love how it divides the page into horizontal sections, so I would change the layout to something like this. The white space now balances the heaviness of the image. It also connects the top part of the page to the rest of the section. I did give a little more breathing room above the body copy, so it feels a little lighter. Here are the two side by side. Let's try this one. There's not too much you can do since the amount of elements are limited, but think of ways you could improve this. Pause again if you need. For me, I always want a moment to break the grid, and the edge of the photos is drawing this harsh divider line. I would also look to separate the images so that they have their own moments individually. Here is what that would look like. Since the idea was to break the grid, which is happening in the bottom right image, I also bled the hero image to break the margin on the left. You're not getting a ton of movement because the images are so blocky, but they do balance each other and they bring the reader from one part of the page to the other. And here is that comparison. Here is another one. What would you do to improve this design? I think the type in the headline is really chunky. The line length in the middle copy is probably too long. Overall, more white space would help. Here are the changes that I made. Actually, let's look at this side by side. The approach for this was to create more white space. For the logo in the corner, it's not part of the headline, so I cleared the space below it completely. In this middle section, I commented that the line length was too long. I think the white space around helps, but even in the updated version, the line length is still too long. This would have to be reworked completely in order to fix that. I did consider columns because that would help, but since there are multiple columns underneath, that's probably a better solution than forcing it into the space. For the bottom section, I added some white space above, making the icon smaller, and then reduced the space afters on the subheads. If you don't know how to control your space afters, I just did a video on the paragraph panel. I always have a purpose when I include things in my videos. For this, the original layout is what I designed when I was a senior designer back in 2013, over a decade ago. I didn't see a lot of things back then that I do now. Apparently my boss at the time didn't either. All this to say that how we see things evolve over time as you gain more experience and exposure, so don't worry so much where you're at. Train your eye and you'll get there. I want to go through one more exercise. This is going to involve some knowledge because how can you see if you don't know what you're looking for? We have a paragraph. Take some time to review. There are a lot of tiny details in this one. I don't know if anyone actually read the paragraph because most designers don't read, which is fine, but it's talking about ragging, so let's start there. Similar to kerning, ragging is a way for us to create balance in type. You can see on the right, it's creating the shape which we want to control. If I rag the paragraph, it should look more like this. The perfect rag goes in, out, in, out. This creates more even spacing, but it also helps readability because your reader has a visual cue on which line they last read, whether it was in or out. Okay, did any of you catch that there were extra spaces here? I know Gen X and older are the greatest offenders of adding double spaces, but I've learned a lot from them, so they will always get a pass in my book. I'll just close this in for now. Because I ragged this, it changed from the original, but I want to mention something while we're here. Have you ever read a line twice? One reason why that might happen is because of stacked type at the beginning or end of a line, which is happening in the top right. We need to separate these, so I'll re-rag it again. Now they're separated, but more importantly, they're not on top of each other at the beginning or end. All right, did you catch anything else wrong in the paragraph? If you saw this, give yourself a pat on the back. The letter G is in a different typeface here. I also did this on purpose because it's an opportunity to talk about seeing the nuances within characters. Here are the two G's. Now that they're isolated, they look nothing alike. In the ear, you can see one has rounded serifs and the other with flat serifs. The counter on the left is vertically symmetrical. The one on the right, the axis is tilted and leans towards the left. And in the loop, one is open and the other is fully closed. How'd it go? Like I said, continue to train your eye and eventually you'll see all the wonderful things in design. I want to do one more thing. I stopped offering the free mentoring sessions, but since this video stemmed from them, I'm offering a free 1-hour mentoring session to 2 viewers. To enter, comment below how many different pairs of glasses did I wear in the video, and yes, there were duplicates. Feel free to comment if you had a favorite. If you get the answer right, I will follow up with a video in 2 weeks to announce the winners and we'll get those set up. If you're wondering, I didn't buy all these glasses just for the sake of this video. My sister is an optometrist, so perks. I just changed them depending on my polo that day. Thank you so much for watching. Check out more content on the channel and I'll see you next time.